Hey guys, I wanted to do one of these videos where I basically pitch a movie idea, but I wanted to do it in a more dressed down, kind of casual way. Usually what I would do in the past is I would write a script and I would read from it, and it would sound very stilted. But I just want to sort of do more like a conversational kind of thing, and I've already fucked it up because what was that sentence? Today I wanted to talk about the Sinister Six. The Sinister Six is a group of Spider-Man villains that Sony Pictures was actually trying to work toward making a movie about. They're sort of trying to do like an Avengers-style film, but with all villains, by building up various characters in solo films and then bringing them together on a team, which would be the Sinister Six. However, things did not go as planned. Kraven the Hunter, that movie has now bombed at the box office. Morbius the Vampire has bombed at the box office. Madame Web, the character whose mother was in the Amazon with some dude researching spiders when she died. All of those just bombed. One after the other, boom, 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 bomb, bomb, bomb. It was like that scene from The Dark Knight, but without any legendary performances or box office clout, I guess. So to that end, I wanted to let you guys know what I would do if I were to make a Sinister Six movie, because everybody's hanging on my every word about what films should or should not be made. So for my Sinister Six film, we're going to go to another film sort of as a reference, a frame of reference, a starting point, another film that has a group of people and a number in the title. We're going to go to Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 is a film about, actually it's a film franchise, but you wouldn't know it because nobody saw any of the additional sequels. Ocean's 11 is about a group of guys who get together and they're going to do the heist of the century. They're going to rob a casino, and it's all about planning and, putting things in place and scheming and plotting. And then, things go off the rails, but then you find out they weren't really off the rails. It was the plan all along and blah, 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 blah. The Sinister Six movie, in my personal cinematic universe, would be a heist film. The titular group, the Sinister Six, is made up of scientists. It's made up of researchers, developers, inventors. All six of these people are going to be people who work for Oscorp. And one of the most important things we're going to be doing here is we're going to be giving these characters actual personality. We're going to give them diverging, clashing personalities where they don't really work well together. At least on the surface. They're people who should not be associated if anyone were to look from the outside at this group of people. We're going to give them foibles, we're going to give them faults. They're all, kind of awkward, science-y kind of folks. They're kind of, not really in touch with how to interact with other people socially. We'll go across the entire spectrum and have, like the overconfident Kraven the Hunter, who's just like a real, smartass and just like, I don't need to work with you guys. I could do everything solo. And we'll go all the way to like the inferiority complex, like Electro, naturally. And we're going to give these guys some actual characterization, which is a little bit new for a Sony superhero movie. You're going to have Dr. Octopus, Otto Octavius. You're going to have the Vulture. You're going to have Kraven, who's sort of like a weapons expert. He's a designer of weapons, almost like the Tony Stark of Oscorp, but not entirely, because the last thing we need at this point is more Tony Stark in Marvel movies. Just let it fucking die. We've got Mysterio, who of course is a special effects genius and works on various projects in motion pictures, CGI, different things like that. And then we've got Electro. Electro being a general expert in terms of technology, generating power, all of those various subjects. We have essentially six people with six specialties working for Oscorp. Now, the sixth member of our group is going to be the Shocker, sort of as a break with like the traditional, original Secret Six. We're going to throw the Shocker in that sixth position, and you'll see why in a moment. Now, what's going to be happening in this movie is that all six of these scientists, inventors, and experts in their field, all six of them get laid off on the same day. Norman Osborn, the CEO of Oscorp, is cutting costs, and part of cutting costs is getting rid of these overpaid, self-indulgent people who are sort of, inventing things or coming up with things that, while useful in some aspects, have sort of gotten a little bit out of control, a little bit out of bounds. Their budgets are overwhelming, and we can show this off with a nice montage at the beginning where these scientists are sort of showing off their inventions to Norman Osborn, and he's not impressed with any of them because they just are they're very strange. They're very weird inventions. They're things that he sees no use in. Think of like RoboCop 2, where they have the montage of robots that are revealed and then immediately just fail. Time to let some of these freaks go and let them sort of fade off into obscurity where they belong. In other words, Dr. Octopus, Mysterio, Electro, the Vulture, Kraven, and the Shocker, they all get their pink slip. They're all told to clean out their desks. All of their ideas, all of their inventions, property of Oscorp. I mean, hey, they signed contracts. They signed away their rights. In fact, they signed non-disclosure agreements. They basically have no leg to stand on. They're out of a job and out of their life's work. So naturally, what does this group do? Well, having a shared bonding moment of being essentially fucked out of everything that they've ever made by a company that they thought they could trust, these six eventually come to the decision that they are going to steal back what was taken from them. They're going to steal from Oscorp, just like Oscorp stole their dreams, their inventions, their ideas, their blood, sweat, and tears for however many years they've worked for this company. And so we go about designing a master plan of how they're going to shake down the company, how they're going to get in, how they're going to sneak in past the security, and so on and so forth, how they're going to get in through back doors of various computer systems and hack this or that, and blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. Now, one thing that sort of is a wrench in this plan is the Green Goblin. Now, the Green Goblin in this universe, in this, film universe, is not known to be Norman Osborn. This is sort of like a secondary figure who routinely attacks Oscorp. In fact, Oscorp has had several incidents where the Green Goblin has stolen things from the company. Stolen weapons, stolen money, stolen various things, caused a lot of damage that then becomes lucrative insurance claims. In other words, it almost seems like Norman Osborn is dressing up as the Green Goblin and essentially committing crimes against his own company in order to line his own pockets. So, of course, the Secret Six try to hook up with this Green Goblin fellow. They figure he has sort of a shared interest, a common cause. But, of course, the Green Goblin rejects them because, as you and I know, he wouldn't work with a group of people trying to steal from Oscorp when he's doing it himself. And in this fracas, the Green Goblin attacks them. Now, the Secret Six are in a stage now where they are basically in like their origin period, so they're not superpowered. Dr. Octopus doesn't have his forearms. Mysterio doesn't have his full-on, 3D generation technology. The Vulture doesn't have his wingsuit. Different things like that. So they essentially have to use their wits and overcome and survive this attack from the Green Goblin, who essentially says, "You want me to join your team? You're the competition." And he tries to, kill all six of them. Now, in this fracas, the Shocker, he's taken out of commission. Now, I don't mean he's killed. I don't mean anything like that. We want to save these characters because we want to be able to build on these characters. We don't want to just throw away characters all willy-nilly. So the Shocker is taken out of commission, put in the hospital from this fight with the Green Goblin. You can't have the Secret Six without a sixth member, right? And plus, the Shocker was kind of like the muscle of the group. You've got Kraven, who's good with guns. You've got the Vulture and Dr. Octopus and Electro and Mysterio, who are kind of brainy, kind of, inventory kind of guys. Not really like the brawn type of people. So they need that guy who's like the tough guy, like the Shocker, who's, sort of like a imposing figure in this, version of the Secret Six. So they put out sort of like feelers to get new muscle on the team. And they bring in Rhino. And the Rhino, just sort of an average thug answering a help wanted ad. We're going to go more with like the Rhino from the comics, not the Rhino from the movie, obviously, because I think they probably killed him and probably ruined the character anyway, so who gives a fuck? They bring in the Rhino as their muscle because they're going to need a tough guy. They're going to need a brute for this plan to go forward. And the Rhino gets sort of immediately, it's like butting heads with all of them because the Rhino is just dumb as a sack of bricks, and everything they say that's, brainy or highfalutin or, has too many big words in it, he takes a lot of things as insults. Eventually things boil to a head, and the Rhino is like, "I'll show you how tough I am," and crashes through a wall, but they're in a high-rise building having a meeting at this time, so the Rhino plummets several stories, landing on a car, outside on the street below. They're going to need a different sixth person. Now, you kind of see like the running joke here. The running joke is that the sixth member of the Sinister Six is sort of like a rotating position, and we're gonna have that position filled by a couple different people who keep having something terrible happen to them. So while this is all happening, we have different scenes intercut of Norman Osborn running Oscorp and sort of getting wind through the grapevine, through like his criminal connections, that there's somebody out there planning to shake him down. There's somebody out there planning to steal from him. Somebody that's not the Green Goblin. Somebody else, somebody different, who's putting together a team, who's plotting to steal technology from him. So he's sort of getting like these messages, getting these inklings, and we see this when Norman Osborn is in a meeting with his shareholders and with his different corporate cronies, and we see his son Harry Osborn is there as well. And Harry Osborn's on his phone, and he's like, "Whatever, Dad, blah 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 blah. All this stupid corporate shit. I'm not gonna, I don't want to take over this company. This company sucks. Blah blah blah. I'm not gonna blah blah blah." And so, Harry Osborn in this version is sort of more like a rebellious teen. He's probably in his 20s. He probably never left his rebellious teen phase, but he's just somebody who's not interested. He's a rich boy, a trust fund kid who would rather be like out partying and not dealing with this fucking Oscorp bullshit and shareholders and pie charts and meetings and whatever. But yeah, Norman Osborn gets a message, that somebody's there's movement. This group of people who are out to get you are like hiring on new people. They're looking out. They're putting out feelers, and so he takes like a thing where he steps aside. And he has to discuss this kind of clandestinely, like find out who these people are, find out who they are, and kill them, and so on and so forth. So Norman Osborn, he's a little bit aware of what's going on here. Now, as we know, the Sinister Six have been left with a open slot on their team. The Shocker, taken out of commission by the Green Goblin. The Rhino, taken out of commission by his own stupidity. Again, neither of them dead, but sort of, out of the picture for now. Not a good fit for the team. You could even at some point bring in Morbius, and you could have Jared Leto as Morbius, and you could say, I want to join this team, blah, 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 blah. For whatever reason he has, science, revenge, whatever. And then somebody, opens the drapes and Morbius fries and he's gone and he's dead. Just throw some stupid shit in there like that. Like, hey, remember the Morbius movie? Fuck that movie. That's more of like a Deadpool kind of joke, but whatever. So who do they bring in? They bring in Hydro Man and Sandman. Two, general sort of thug guys with kind of similar abilities. And, they're sort of like interviewing the two of them for the position on this team. So we've got Dr. Octopus, who I sort of picture as sort of like the leader of the Sinister Six. We've got Dr. Octopus, and he's got like a couple of papers as he's interviewing Sandman and Hydro Man for the position of the sixth member of the Sinister Six. And Doc Ock is like looking in between the two pages, and he's like, did one of you like copy off of the other's paper? And Sandman and Hydro Man are like, no, what are you talking about? So Doc Ock looks at the pages again, like the forms that he's got in his hands, and he's like, so you were both in an accident with an experimental machine? So, yeah, yep. And your molecules were combined with the elements around you. Right, uh-huh. So Doc Ock kind of slams the papers down on the table, and he just says, I find your very existence an insult to my intelligence. He's not having this shit. These two guys with their similar fucking powers and their similar fucking origins, it's pissing him off. And so Doc Ock, using some technology available to him at the time, because fuck it, why not, combines the two people. He combines Hydro Man and Sandman right there on the spot. Through technology, through the magic of science, through lasers and beeping, he combines the two of them right on the spot into Mudman. Mudman is an actual Spider-Man villain, and Mudman actually in the comics is Hydro Man and Sandman combined together. So our sixth member, for the time being, is going to be Mudman. Just for the fuck of it, just because it's funny. And so we have, of course, the culmination of everything where they, pull off the big scheme. We've seen them sort of putting things in motion. We've seen them, doing this and that, like an Ocean's 11 type of thing where they get this place here, this piece there, this part in motion, this part in motion, get this person in this spot, get everything ready to take down Oscorp, to steal back their own technology from the company. And of course they go through with the plan, things are going off without a hitch. They get back their technology. Doc Ock has his arms now, his 8 arms. The Vulture has his flight suit. Oh, wow. Electro has his powers, his ability where he can generate electricity from his fingertips. He has his technology back. They're all at their full power. Mysterio, Kraven, full power. They have back everything that Oscorp stole from them. And of course, the Green Goblin shows up to stop them. Cue the big dramatic fight. The battle between an overpowered Green Goblin with his explosives, his glider, all things that seem to be based on the technology of the Sinister Six. He's got a glider that is remarkably similar to Vulture's wings. He's got bombs that are bursting in sort of like an electrical field of energy, sort of like Electro's thing. He's got sort of this technology going on. He's got these bats hovering around him, and the bats sort of swarm around him, and they cloak him in darkness, and they, spew out at the enemy. But it turns out the bats they're not real. They're not tangible. They're projections. Sort of like Mysterio's deal. So Green Goblin in this universe is going to be a mishmash of stolen technology from the Sinister Six. Does that make sense? This is why the Sinister Six were all fired. This is why they were swept under the rug and kicked out, is because they would have recognized their own technology in the Green Goblin's latest upgrade. So they had to be gotten rid of. They had to be wiped out. So we have this big battle going on. Mudman, taking the first shot, getting blasted and blasted back into Sandman and Hydra-Man. Boom, separated in a big blast of muddy destruction. You've got Kraven taking shots. Pop, 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 pop. Sniper rifle from the ceiling. Take him out. Pew, that type of thing. You've got the Vulture flying around doing a fucking dog fight with the Green Goblin. You've got each of these characters doing their specialty, trying to take down the Green Goblin, who just seems a little bit too much for them. But then Dr. Octopus drops sort of a little, notice. He says, by the way, who do you think was tipping you off about us coming here tonight? Dr. Octopus notes, that was us. We told you that we were coming here on this night, and we were the ones tipping you off along the way about everything that was going on. Just so you know, we were behind orchestrating this whole event. And at that point, Mysterio lifts an illusion that he has been holding on to this entire time, one that he's kept going. He lifts an illusion, and standing there, previously cloaked by a fake wall, previously obscured from vision, standing there on a raised balcony, is Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn? I thought he was the Green Goblin. That's where you'd be wrong. Upon seeing Norman there, Dr. Octopus says, "It's over, Harry. Do you think it was that hard to figure out who would have such a grudge against Oscorp?" Now, you in the audience may have believed that Norman Osborn was striking out at his own company, engaging in insurance fraud. But no, Harry, his son, the heir to the Oscorp throne, has essentially been crippling the company just to try to destroy it. He hasn't been profiting from it. He hasn't been keeping the money. He hasn't been keeping the items that are stolen. He hasn't been putting them on the black market. He has just been destroying things. And he's just been getting rid of company assets. And he has just been trying to take down Oscorp, because not only doesn't he want to run it, he wants his father back. He wants his dad back, who has put so much of his life into this company and has ignored him for so many fucking years. We even go back and see that when Norman Osborn was in that shareholder meeting earlier in the film, and Harry Osborn was playing on his phone, seemingly, not paying attention, Harry actually was reading Norman's messages. He was in his phone, in his messages, in his DMs, reading the tips that the Secret Six were sending to Norman Osborn. And that is how Harry knew what his father knew. And so the Green Goblin in the Sinister Six movie is Harry Osborn. And we wrap it up from there with Norman Osborn himself having a sort of kill switch on his person, having a button that he presses that deactivates the Green Goblin's technology. Now, the reason he has this button, the reason he has this kill switch, is because, as I mentioned, all of the Green Goblin's technology is based on the technology stolen from the Sinister Six. And so, who would know better how to shut it down than the group that invented everything the Green Goblin is using? And why would they give this kill switch to Norman Osborn? Essentially as a power move to show that nobody who comes in and works with their technology, nobody who comes in and takes over for them or uses their designs in the future will ever be as good as they are. In other words, bring in as many people as you want to iterate on our designs, to take our designs and to grow them or make them into new things. We'll always be able to shut it the fuck down. And what we've got is Norman Osborn realizing that his systems were compromised, realizing that these scientists, these researchers, these people were fired from the company by Harry, who had gotten into their various, systems and had handed out their, pink slips. And he realizes that, this sort of was all done to the Secret Six through no fault of their own. And so he offers them their jobs back. Come back to the company. All is forgiven. I'll deal with my son. I think he's going to have a very nice time being sent away to this school in some far-flung country in Eastern Europe. Just come back to the company, come back into the fold. You can work for me again. Obviously, your technology is great. Look what you've done here. You brought down the Green Goblin, someone who's been a thorn in the side of Oscorp for however long. And of course, the Secret Six tell him to go fuck himself and go off on their own as badass rock music plays, and they just walk out of the building with their own technology stolen back from Oscorp. And that's how I would do a Secret Six movie. Now, what you've got here is you've got a group of characters who are not heroes. They are villains. That is the entire point of the fucking Secret Six, and that was what was so questionable about Sony putting on this shared universe thing of villains. It's you really want us to focus on villains. So what we've done in this movie is we've sort of given them an anti-hero origin, but a lot of these characters probably will go on to just be villains. We've given them an origin in which they seem like the good guys, but really you could take the characters in any direction because they were just looking out for their own interests, really, at the beginning of this whole thing. From beginning to end, just watching out for themselves and getting what's theirs. So we haven't made these characters into heroes by any means. We haven't really made them into anti-heroes because, as I said, everything, quote-unquote good that they've done is for their own goals. And so from this point forward, you've got pretty much anywhere you could go with the characters. And I guess that's it. Like I said, this is a more casual video. I'm just kind of, rolling off the cuff here. So I don't really know how to end this. So I'll just say, if you like this premise, share it around. If you don't like it, post your own premise in the comments. How would you make a Sinister Six movie? And don't just say I wouldn't, because that's such a fucking cop-out.